before everything played out in the open, perhaps Tinubu did not manage his caucus well.
I wouldn't say he did not manage his caucus well.
Because that would be failure of leadership from what I've played out.
No, I wouldn't say he didn't manage his caucus well. You know, the moment Aregbe got to Abuja, he was making new friends. Don't forget, in one of his birthday colloquium, which is no longer regular now, that's Aregbesola, El-Rufai was the guest speaker. You know, and El-Rufai said it pointedly that he doesn't like his boss, Tinubu, that Aregbesola is his own man. And somebody very close to Aregbesola told me in confidence that he raised the matter with Aregbesola, and Aregbesola that why should he be held responsible for what somebody else has said? I don't know whether that one took the same message to Asiwaju or not. But if I were Asiwaju and you bring that type of message to me with that type of response from Aregbesola, the only conclusion I would draw is that it's already going out of the way.
And Tinubu was eyeing the presidential ticket of the APC.
The same El-Rufai went to Lagos to say he was going to teach them how to retire godfathers.
You know, at some point, Aregbesola made the point that somebody was behaving like God. Who was he referring to?
He was referring to Tinubu. He concluded a statement that they have even prayed to God to bring the person down. He was referring to Tinubu. That was in the build-up to the 2023 presidential election.
This Aregbesola, Tinubu's man.
Yes.
Wanting God to bring the person down.
The person who God helped to lift him up.
God helped
Asiwaju to lift Aregbesola up.
Or Aregbesola helped to lift Tinubu up.
Well, from the story I had and from the things I've read, it was the other way.
Let's read your book. Lawal contended that Aregbesola might be making reference to the agreement he perhaps had with the Adeleke dynasty since the APC did not win the 2022 governorship election. Hear him. So this is a statement from Lawal.
Yes, the party chairman.
He said, and part of the agreement was that there would be an automatic ticket for Oyetola, and that while Oyetola would be allowed to face governance without interference from any quarters, the trio of Chief Bisi Akonde, Ogbeni Rauf Aregbesola, and Alhaji Gboyega Oyetola would lead, guide, coordinate, and administer the party as the apex body. But during the primaries, Aregbesola sponsored Alhaji Moshood Adeoti against Oyetola.
Yes.
He did that.
He did. 2022.
He sponsored Adeoti.
Yeah, it was clear. He campaigned, he mounted the podium around to campaign for Adeoti's candidature.
So at that point, the line was drawn.
Yeah, the line was drawn. That was 2020 in the build-up to the 2022 election.
So why are we saying we don't know what's going on?
Well,
at that point, he knew Tinubu wanted Oyetola.
Yeah, to return. It's obvious.
And by this time, he wanted Adeoti. So they've fallen out?
Yeah, and what led to that statement, from what I gather, Aregbesola at some point accused Oyetola of not keeping to the agreement they had. And so the party had to respond to him to say, which of the agreement are you talking about?
On page 147, you have a subtitle. Day I gave up on Aregbesola. You even gave up?
Yeah, I gave up. The reason I gave up was this. When they were doing the APC revalidation exercise, if you recall, the first person they attended to was the president. The late president now, President Muhammadu Buhari. Once the party was done with that, they traveled all the way to Osun and straight to Ila to attend to Chief Bisi Akande. And once they were done with Chief Bisi Akande, they followed to Iragbiji to do for my principal and Her Excellency the wife. And when we got back, we were now discussing, okay, since it's leadership, the next person is Aregbesola. And in my presence, my principal put a call to Aregbesola. The phone was on speaker. And so it was as if I wasn't hearing what Aregbe was saying. I was only hearing what my principal was saying. I was hearing what my principal was saying, and I was hearing Aregbesola's response. 2 dates were proposed, but he said those dates were not convenient for him. He now went ahead to promise that he was going to give 48 hours notice whenever he was ready for his own exercise. And we're all waiting for him. But while the waiting was on, at that point, Otunba Yola Omisore was already pressurizing to join the party. And from what I heard, at the meeting that was held in 2020, my principal brought the idea at that meeting that Yola Omisore has shown interest in joining the APC. And none of the others kicked against it. And what led to that, from the conversation I had with my principal, was that Aregbesola accused Oyetola of deferring to Omisore, that Omisore is now his new leader. And my principal said he interjected to say that I took strong exception to that. And in concluding, I said, by the way, this man said he wants to join us formally. And none of the others kicked against it.
Aregbesola did not kick against it.
He did not kick against it at that meeting. So, while we were waiting for Aregbesola, Omisore and his men went to register to join the party. I think the week they joined the party, it was that weekend, I was in the government house with my principal. We were reviewing one of his speeches, and I just saw a Facebook Live where Aregbesola was saying that they were blocking him from registering. They want to send him away from the party. I was like, how? Who was blocking you from registering? I said, look, they say this man is a liar. And here I am confirming it today. And that was the day I gave up.
You gave up?
I gave up.
At that point, no reconciliation would happen.
I gave up. Because it was obvious.
Oyetola gave up too?
No, I didn't. He didn't tell me that. But at that point, I concluded he was the aggressor.
He was the aggressor?
Yeah, because otherwise, if I wasn't privy to that discussion, I probably would have said maybe my principal said something else to him. But this conversation happened right in my presence.
Oyetola dismantled most of his policies.
I wouldn't say dismantled most of his policies. What
the
are
popular policies?
What are those popular policies? You want to tell me that single uniform is popular? You want to tell me that merging of school is popular when some of the old student association were already taking the state government to court, and they even said that they will have nothing to do with the state government? You and I know that government alone cannot run schools. You need the support of these people. So, which of the policies were popular? The single uniform or the merging of the merging of schools? As far as I know, those policies were not popular. He only forced it down the throat of Osun citizens.
And Oyetola reversed them.
He did not reverse them.
Confronted him.
He did not reverse them. He had promised that whatever it is that the people do not like, not that whatever. There was a Channels interview, governorship debate, and Seun Okibaloye was the one who anchored. He asked Oyetola pointedly, this single uniform thing. Oyetola struggled to defend it. And at the end of the day, Seun asked that, okay, if you become governor and the people say they don't want it, because in that debate, both Adioti was the SSG, said he was going to change it. Even though Omisore never served with them in the government, Omisore also told the same line. But what Oyetola said was that, look, if he becomes governor and the people insist they don't like it, that they will review it. In any case, the last Ogbeniti daybreak that was held under Aregbesola, he also said it, that if there was anything he didn't do well, that his successor will correct it. So, how would that become dismantling?
But Aregbesola didn't like it.
Of course, he did not like it, but he won't tell you that that was the reason why that was part of the reason he was fighting him.
Let's come to the 2022 gubernatorial election. A sitting governor was defeated, Oyetola. How did that happen?
Well, a combination of factors. Complacency, sabotage, and the fact that my principal didn't show any sign of desperation to hold on to that position at all costs.
Or he was overconfident?
It wasn't the issue of overconfidence. He believed that he had done well for the people, and he believed very strongly that the people should ordinarily reward him with their votes. But perhaps he didn't take into cognizance other things politicians do to win elections.
Things like
harassing voters, manipulating process. I recall during the orientation for polling agents, it was Oyetola who told them that anybody who makes an attempt to add, because he believed so much in beavers, and he cautioned the agent not to make any attempt to want to manipulate to increase the tally, that anybody they found doing that such a person should be handed over to the police from his own party, from his own camp. He believed so much in beavers, so he didn't prepare for all those other shenanigans that eventually happened at the end of the day.
What were the shenanigans that happened?
Clearly, something happened with that process. If we don't see anyone in the open, first, we saw the arrest of a member of the party who is also a member of NUTRW in the state. He was the first person that was arrested and paraded.
Oyetola's man.
He's a member of APC. On the day of the election, Osogbo, voting population in Osogbo is more than the North and South combined. By 4 to 5 p.m., we had concluded the exercise in Osogbo. But in Ede, they voted up to 11 p.m.
Why? Election materials did not arrive on time.
I don't think so. There are no riverine areas in Osun. Before you say it took you a long time to get to some of those areas. So it was clear. And the politics of the 2023 presidential election also came into play.
I was going to come to that. Because in your book, you mentioned Ede.
Yeah.
You talked about it. You gave us the picture.
Yeah.
And while I was reading that part, I was saying, but Aregbesola was APC. Buhari was APC. APC had control of the police, the army, the civil defense. So, how was Adeleke able to corner them in Ede? So, what happened?
Conspiracy.
You suggested that in your book.
Yeah, conspiracy.
From the federal side?
Yes, conspiracy from the federal side. Because don't forget that Asiwaju emerged as the candidate of the party against all odds. And so even after emerging, some still felt that they could still pull a last minute to stop him from becoming the president. And they indeed made the attempt. So the election in Osun was the last election before the presidential election.
Are you saying they used Osun to go against Asiwaju?
Of course, it was deliberate. Otherwise, how will you explain a government that was in power and all the federal government apparatus, including security operations, became hostile to the APC in Osun?
Ismail Omipidan,
sir,
are you saying that Buhari supported Adeleke in the 2022 gubernatorial election in Osun?
I wouldn't say Buhari as an individual, but the men around Buhari who were calling the shots.
Aregbesola was one of them?
He was one of them.
He worked against Oyetola?
Clearly, because his foot soldiers voted against, apart from voting against him, worked against him. The incumbent governor confirmed publicly that he got support from Aregbesola's men.
And the target was Tinubu?
The target was Tinubu, but Oyetola was the victim.
Oh. He's still a victim?
Well, thankfully, he has told everyone that he's not interested in recontesting. And I hope the APC plays their game very well. Otherwise, what is happening in Osun will continue for another 4 years after 2026.
You know, Aregbesola is now in ADC.
It's in ADC, but I tell you confidently, as a political analyst, the only way ADC can win the state is for crisis to be precipitated within the APC that will lead some of them into leaving the party in anger. And once they leave the party in anger, they won't go to Demola Adeleke because there appears to be a consensus that he's not doing well. And so they will have no choice but to go back to Aregbesola.
Will Tinubu allow that situation?
Well, I hope he will not, but if they don't manage the process well, that is the kind of scenario that is likely to happen.
It was almost like a concluded deal that Adeleke was moving to APC. As a political analyst, a man who knows what is happening behind the scene, what happened?
Well, from what I know, as an insider, I say it with all sense of modesty, I call myself an insider because having worked with the current Minister of Marine and Blue Economy, having links in the villa, having contacts within the APC, I'm sufficiently knowledgeable about the happenings. Now, there are some people within the APC who appears not to be comfortable with Oyetola's leadership. And so they believe very strongly that the only way to dislodge him is to bring in a Demola Adeleke, who is the incumbent. And there's no how you admit an incumbent into your party and you say you deny such an incumbent of ticket. It's unheard of. The only time an incumbent was denied the ticket was under Obasanjo in Anambra, Mbadunoju. After then, I am not aware that any incumbent had been denied the ticket. Now, those who were plotting that defection never carried Oyetola along. They had their strategy.
Who were these ones plotting? Were they governors among them?
From what Otumba Yola Omisoye said in one of his interviews recently, he pointedly accused the governor of Ogun State, Governor Dapo Abiodun. Incidentally, Governor Dapo Abiodun was part of the governors that were sent to Osun in 2022 to manage the elections.
They sabotaged Oyetola?
I believe very strongly.
Including Fayemi?
I believe very strongly that those, without mentioning names, those who were part of that election management didn't play their role well. Because if they did, what
APC governors?
APC governors.
Including Fayemi?
If they did, what happened would not have happened. I don't want to mention names. And I think in my book, I was careful with the choice of my words. But I knew what transpired. But maybe when we are doing a second edition, some of these names will come in the open. So, because they didn't carry Oyetola along, there was no way that thing would have said through. Don't also forget that most of those who were part of the PDP in 2022 had all moved to the APC. You are talking of people like Omoba Dotunba Bayemi, Wole Oke, and lately Senator Fadaunsi, Ajile Soro in Ife. So you do not necessarily need an Adeleke to win election in APC in Osun. But some people felt otherwise. And so they packaged the man. But at the end of the day, the thing failed. And
who stopped it? Was it Oyetola that said no, it won't happen? Or Tinubu didn't want it to happen?
No. Well, the thing is, when one thing I love about the president is that if you marshal convincing arguments before him, it differs to your position. So I want to believe that those who confronted the president with better and further facts on why the incumbent governor of Osun should not be admitted into the party carried the day. Because even the governor, the party, when they issued a statement, even though I told some of my friends that if I were in their camp, I would not allow such a statement to go out. They affirmed in their statement that they wanted to go to APC, but that a group within the APC stopped them from joining the party. For me, I felt that was not strategic.
Were they trying to do that to appease the president, knowing that perhaps from what has happened in recent gubernatorial elections in other states, that Tinubu will be out to take Osun by fire, by force?
Well, they will tell you they are doing it in the interest of Yoruba, but they are doing it in their own selfish interest. Because look at it, you had 3 senators, you lost 2. You had 7 House of Rep members, you lost 3. Some big shots. Certainly they know that they are likely to face some challenges, and so they decided to hide under Yoruba agenda and say they were going to APC to help the president. But they also did not manage that well, because they were telling their people that it was the president that was begging them to come, whereas they were the ones begging to join the APC.
So who do we believe? Who is begging who?
No, from what they said, if it was president that was begging them, no group should have been powerful enough to stop them from going.
They visited the president.
Yeah, they did. Once.
Bola Tinubu.
Yeah, once in Lagos.
The elder brother.
Yeah, the 3 of them, the elder brother, Davido, and the governor, they visited the president.
Do you know why they were there?
Well, I can hazard a guess, because I also did a piece on their visit. I'm aware that before that visit, the governor had made series of attempts to see Mr. President, and it wasn't possible until Davido broke out that day. Now, 2 things may have happened. It's either about business or about 2026, 2027. Because in Osun we'll have 2026 before we have 2027. But some of his spin doctors denied that it was nothing political. But from what happened eventually, we knew that politics may have been part of it. Otherwise, they won't issue a statement to confirm that yes, indeed, they wanted to move to APC, but they were stopped from joining.
You know, from what happened to Oyetola in the 2022 election, can one hazard a guess about the political relationship between Tinubu and the former governor like Fayemi, even Dapo Abiodun, before Tinubu got the ticket? You know, he was... Yes. You know, that's where he made that statement.
Yes.
There must be something behind that statement that day.
Of course.
And perhaps we saw it play out.
Yeah.
In the 2022 election.
With what I know, you know, yes, it was Tinubu who first took Fayemi to Ekiti to run for the election. I was told that it was Okpeyemi Bamidele that introduced Fayemi to, that camp. Now,
remember, Fayemi has always been there in the struggle.
Yes.
The Nadeko days.
But in terms of politics, politics come and run for election is different from activism. Now, I'm also aware that after Fayemi's first term, he believed that Tinubu never supported his re-election bid. And even when he was running again after he had become minister, he believed that the camp sponsored the candidate against him. So he had already alienated himself from the Tinubu camp. But my principal did something marvelous. He was able to maintain very strong relationship with both Fayemi and Akeredolu.
They were not in Tinubu's camp. Akeredolu and Fayemi.
Yeah, but later, I want to believe that Oyetola played a role in making Akeredolu, because when Akeredolu returned to the camp fully, he took charge and he played, may his soul rest in peace, he played a decisive role within the Southwest with regards to that 2023 presidency. So yes, they were not in the same camp. They will tell you they are in Tinubu's camp, but some of the activities suggest otherwise. You recall Tinubu's famous lecture in Kaduna, where they were adopting him as Sardauna's Sardauna's one. You know, at the beginning, Fayemi, Amechi, and everybody they were in the same camp before they all fell out.
They fell out?
They fell out. If they didn't fall out, everybody would not have returned to the Tinubu's camp.
But he was never part of the Tinubu's camp.
He was never part of the Tinubu camp, but he played a decisive role in the emergence of Tinubu. And that's why for somebody like me, I didn't like the way he was treated.